Your autoimmune flares aren't random. They're just speaking a language that you haven't learned yet. And I know you're probably thinking, okay, that sounds great in theory, but how do I actually figure out what my triggers are? Where do I even start? Well, that's exactly what we're covering today. And I'm going to show you the one daily habit that makes a huge impact in understanding what's triggering your flare-ups, and it takes less than 15 minutes. You don't need any fancy apps or equipment, and within just 1 to 2 weeks of doing this consistently, patterns will start to emerge that you've never even seen before. So let's dive in. Now, before I show you the tracking template, I need you to understand why this works, because once you understand the science behind this, you'll never skip it. Now, here's the truth. The brain is terrible at tracking patterns across a period of time. I don't mean that as an insult. I mean it literally. The human brain is not designed to hold a lot of detailed information about what you ate, how you slept, what stressed you out 5 days ago, and how you felt physically over multiple days, and then connect those dots accurately. Unless you have a photographic memory, maybe then it would work. But for most people, it would not. And there's actually research to back this up. Studies show that when patients try to recall their symptoms and potential triggers from memory alone, they're accurate less than 50% of the time. Now that's basically a coin flip. So think about your own experiences for a second. You wake up Thursday morning and you feel terrible. Your joints are screaming. Your brain fog is so bad that you can barely think. Your energy is completely gone. And you immediately start asking yourself, what did I do? What caused this? You think back to yesterday and you ate pretty clean, nothing obvious. You slept okay. Work was stressful, but honestly, when isn't it? So you think back to Tuesday and you did eat out at a restaurant, but you ordered something that should have been safe and you felt fine that night. And Monday, well, you can barely remember Monday. Was that the day that you had a difficult conversation with your boss, or was that last week? See what's happening here? You're trying to piece together a puzzle with missing pieces, and your brain is filling in the gaps with guesses. And here's what makes this even harder. Most triggers, whether they're food sensitivities, stress responses, or environmental factors, have a 24 to 72 hour delay before symptoms even start to appear. And that means that the thing that caused your Thursday symptoms might have happened on Monday or Tuesday. But by Thursday, Monday feels like ancient history. You genuinely cannot remember all of the details. Plus, it's usually not just one trigger, it's multiple things. Researchers call this the threshold effect. Maybe it was poor sleep Sunday night, so there's 20% of your threshold. Or the restaurant meal on Tuesday where you got cross-contamination. Maybe that's 30% of your threshold. Or the stressful work deadline that you had on Wednesday. There's another 25% of your threshold. Or your menstrual cycle that started on Thursday morning. Another 25% of your threshold. And before you know it, you've reached 100%. You've hit that threshold and your symptoms are activated. But without systematic tracking, you're never going to see how those four things work together. You would just think, oh, well, my period triggered my symptoms. And this is why your symptoms can feel really unpredictable. Not because they are unpredictable, but because you're trying to solve this complex pattern recognition problem with a tool, your memory, that simply isn't designed for this task. You almost need an external brain, and that's exactly what we're going to build today. All right, so without further ado, here it is, the habit that changes everything. Every single day, I want you to spend about 15 minutes tracking 4 key data points with a simple tracking template. That's it. 4 things, 15 minutes every day. Now, I can already hear some of you saying, where am I going to find time to track things? I'm barely surviving my days. I don't have time. And I totally get this, but what I need you to understand is that this 15-minute habit is going to give you hours back in your life by preventing symptoms. Think about it. How much time does feeling terrible cost you? When you have a flare-up, it might knock you out for 2 to 3 days. That's not just 2 to 3 days of feeling terrible, that's 2 to 3 days of reduced productivity, canceled plans, being unable to show up for your family, and then another few days of recovery. So we're talking about potentially losing a full week of your life with one flare-up episode. Now, imagine preventing even one bad symptom day per month by just spending a few minutes every day tracking. And the great thing about this is that once you crack your personal code and identify your triggers, you won't really need to track as intensively forever. You can look at this like a discovery phase. And once you know what triggers you, you can track more casually or only do it when you're introducing something new. like a new food or a new lifestyle habit. But right now, in this discovery phase, you need data. And I'm going to give you the exact template to collect that data. So before I walk you through those 4 data points, I want to make sure that you have the template in your hands. I've created a free resource called the Autoimmune Harmony Roadmap, and inside of it is the exact symptom tracker template that you're going to need. It's not a complicated spreadsheet. It's a simple, clean table with 4 columns that takes just a few minutes to fill out each day. The Autoimmune Harmony Roadmap also includes other tools that are going to help you to get started with identifying your unique flare patterns and understand what's causing them so that you can take control of your health. You can pause this video and go ahead and download it for free right now. Just click the link in the description box below. It says free Autoimmune Harmony Roadmap, and you'll enter your email and I'll send it to you within about 10 to 15 minutes. And then you can print it out and get started immediately. And here's my promise to you: if you use this tracker consistently for just 2 weeks, that's only 14 days, you're going to start to see patterns that you've never noticed before. I've seen this happen over and over. So pause this video right now, go ahead and grab that free download, and then come back and I will wait for you. Okay, did you get it? Perfect. Now, let me walk you through exactly how to use it. When you open up your Autoimmune Harmony Roadmap, you're going to find the symptom tracker with the 4 columns that I talked about. So let me walk you through what goes in each one and why it matters. The first thing that we're going to focus on is the date and time. And I know this one's obvious. Just write down the date and time of day that you're filling it out. But I just want to emphasize that time is actually really important because you need timestamps so that you can calculate those 24 to 72 hour delays between triggers and symptoms. And without dates and times, you really can't look back and connect the dots. In column 2, you're going to track how you felt physically that day. So I recommend 2 things with this. First, you want to give yourself an overall symptom severity rating from 1 to 10. And 1 means I feel amazing with almost no symptoms. 5 means moderate symptoms and they were manageable but still noticeable. And 10 means your symptoms were really severe, you're struggling to function through the day. Now, the other thing with this column is I want you to briefly note which specific symptoms you were experiencing. So, for example, you might put, I had joint pain in my hands and my knees, or I had brain fog and I couldn't focus at work, or digestive issues after lunch, or maybe extreme fatigue and needed to nap. You don't need to write paragraphs. You just need to put a quick note so that you remember what the number 7 meant when you look back several days later. This step is important because this is your outcome variable. This is what we're trying to predict and prevent. Without tracking how you feel each day, you really have no way to correlate it back to what the potential triggers were. The research on this is clear. Studies show that daily symptom tracking can allow patients to detect patterns between 3 and 5 days earlier than they would otherwise notice. And that early warning system is gold. Now, column 3 is going to be where you track what you ate, but not in an overwhelming or obsessive way. We're not counting calories or weighing portions here. You just want to write down what you usually eat. And if you eat something every day, like you have a regular breakfast or a go-to lunch, you can just write, usual lunch or usual breakfast. The goal here is to capture your baseline, not build a food diary. But I do want you to make a note when something stands out. So for example, you want to write down any foods that you don't eat regularly. So if you tried cashew butter for the first time, or if you ate at a restaurant, or you've had a food that you're usually not sure, you feel like it might give you a reaction. Like you had eggs for breakfast and you usually avoid those. Or any accidental exposures. Like you avoid gluten typically, but you feel like you might have been exposed to some at a party. This really matters because food sensitivities are one of the top triggers for autoimmune flare-ups, and they're most always linked to something called leaky gut or increased intestinal permeability. Now, this happens when the gut lining is damaged and tiny little gaps form between the cells in your gut lining, and they're supposed to stay tightly sealed. Now, when the gaps open up, this allows small food particles and bacterial toxins to leak into your bloodstream, and then your immune system sees them as intruders. Your immune system is activated. And over time, this immune confusion can create what's called molecular mimicry. And this is when certain food proteins look similar to your body's own tissues. And your immune system attacks both, thinking that it's protecting you. And because this reaction builds slowly, the symptoms don't always show up right away. And that's why food-related inflammation usually has a 24 to 72 hour delayed response, meaning that something you ate on Monday could trigger symptoms on Wednesday or Thursday. Now, when you start logging meals this way, you're going to notice patterns like Every time I eat eggs, I flare 2 days later. Or when I eat out at a restaurant, I notice that about 48 hours later, I start to see symptoms. Or nightshade vegetables seem to cause joint pain for me the next morning. These patterns are the clues that we use to find your personal flare-up triggers. And knowing this helps your body to finally calm the inflammation that's been running the show so far. Now, the fourth column is kind of like your catch-all column for anything that could influence how you feel that day, even things you might not normally connect with your symptoms. So I'm talking about your stress. You're going to rate your stress level from 1 to 10, 10 being the highest, and briefly describe any major stressors. You're going to record how many hours you slept, and you're going to note the sleep quality. Now, there's also a space at the bottom of the template to record how many hours you slept, but I want you to use this column to describe the quality of your sleep too, because that's really important. And some other factors that you also might want to make note of are anything else that might shift your immune system. And these are things like your menstrual cycle, exercise, weather changes, new medications or supplements, and travel. Tracking these factors really matters because stress and sleep are two of the biggest drivers of autoimmune flares, and they're the ones that most people tend to overlook. Research shows that both chronic stress and even a single night of poor sleep can raise inflammatory markers by 20 to 25%. And stress seems to have an immediate effect while sleep loss kind of compounds over time. So you might handle one tough day fine, but string together a few nights of really poor sleep and a high stress week, and symptoms often start to emerge after that. So when you track these things, you're going to notice a pattern, and that's going to start to help you connect the dots. And recognizing those connections will give you the power to intervene sooner, adjust your routine, rest, and reset before the inflammation takes over. And that's what this is all about. Preventing flares before they start instead of just reacting to them. All right, so you've got your free Autoimmune Harmony roadmap with the tracker template, and you're filling it out every day for 15 minutes. Now what? Here's how to actually use this data to start identifying your triggers. So first you want to track consistently for at least 2 weeks. Now, I know 2 weeks might sound like a long time, but remember that 24 to 72 hour delay? You really need enough data points to start to see patterns emerge. Now, 2 weeks gives you 14 days of data, which is enough to start connecting the dots. And if you have a flare, you can look back about 1 to 3 days and observe what was going on at that time. So let's say you wake up on Thursday with a symptom rating of 8 to 10, and you don't want to just ask yourself, what did I do yesterday? You want to open your tracker and look at Wednesday. And then you want to look at Tuesday. And then you want to look at Monday. And you want to see what you did on those days. If anything happened out of the ordinary, did you eat something unusual? Did you have poor sleep? Was your stress level high? Were there multiple factors going on at once? And this will help you to start to draw connections. Now, after a month of tracking, this is really where the magic will start to happen. You're going to have enough data to see recurring patterns. And you can pull out a highlighter and mark every time you've had a symptom maybe above a 6 out of 10. And then look at what happened 1 to 3 days before each of those episodes. You might begin to notice that every time you eat out at restaurants, symptoms are happening 48 hours later, or poor sleep is always leading to worse symptoms the next day, or that your symptoms are spiking every month just before your period. These patterns are your roadmap. Once you see them clearly on paper, you can start testing solutions. So that's the next step. When you identify a potential trigger, you want to test it. If you think restaurant meals are triggering you, then try avoiding eating out for 2 weeks and make note of it. If you think poor sleep is a factor, prioritize 7 to 8 hours for 2 weeks and keep tracking. If you think a specific food is triggering your symptoms, then eliminate it for 3 to 4 weeks and then reintroduce it while tracking closely. The tracker gives you the data to test and verify what's actually triggering your unique body. So here's what I want you to do right now. If you haven't already, click on the link in the description box below, download your free Autoimmune Harmony roadmap, get that symptom tracker template in your hands and save it where it's somewhere easily accessible on your phone or on your computer, or just print it out. Commit to doing this for just 2 weeks, 14 days. And if you do this for 14 days, you will start to see patterns that you've never noticed before. And those patterns are the key to taking back control of your health. You're not powerless. Your symptoms are not random. Their data is going to give you the power to take action and make changes. So grab that free tracker, start using it tonight, and let's figure out your unique triggers together. In the next video, I'm going to be sharing 5 surprising food-related triggers that are contributing to your autoimmune flares. And I think you'll be surprised by some of them. You don't want to miss this. See you in the next one.